It's cold outside. Little snow on the car this morning, but it's good to be with you as we study God's word. So today's Tuesday, and we're in 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 to 15. And I tell you, 2 Peter is not a book that we get too often in the lectionary. It's only actually twice in 3-year schedule. But it is very interesting, and it ties together in a very appropriate way for Advent. Advent is the season in which we look back at the first coming, or the first Advent, the birth of Jesus, to help us understand how we are to live in anticipation and expectation of the second coming of Jesus. And so what we're doing this week is we're reading the 4 lectionary passages for this upcoming Sunday, which will be the second Sunday of Advent. And we're trying to discover the themes and the threads and the intersections that run through them. And so yesterday we read from the gospel passage, Mark chapter 1, verses 1 to 8. Today is New Testament. Tomorrow is Old Testament. And then Thursday is the Psalm. And then Friday is when we talk about the themes that run through them. Then we come to church on Sunday or worship online. And the songs and the sermon and the service is all inspired by these passages. It's just such an amazing way where it all fits together. So without further ado, let's get into 2 Peter chapter 3. So what we got going on in this letter, this is a lot of people believe, one of the latest letters written in the New Testament. And the problem that Peter is dealing with in the church is a lot of people said, hey, you said Jesus was going to come back, and he hasn't come back yet. So what does any of this matter? And you can read that in the earlier part of chapter 3. It says, most importantly, know this: in the last days, scoffers will come jeering, living by their own cravings and saying, where is the promise of his coming? And so what's happened is people are saying, well, Jesus isn't going to come back. You promised, he's not. And so therefore, what does it matter the way that we live? So morally, they became lazy. Complacent. And I would say that in a certain way, this is very appropriate for the day we live in, because the moral behaviors between a Christian and non-Christian statistically, there's no difference. So morally, we become very lax in the way that we live our lives. So here we go. A few things that jumped out to me. First thing is Peter's talking about God's timing. God's timing is different than our timing. And he's talking about his second coming. So that with the Lord, a single day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years like a single day. In other words, Peter's trying to say to these people in the church, hey, be patient, because God is patient. God's timing is different than our timing. So we might think that God is coming soon, but in his mind, in his heart, he is coming soon. And it says in here, which is very, very interesting, it says that he is patient towards you, not wanting anyone to perish, but all to change their hearts and lives. In other words, the reason why Jesus hasn't come yet, and we don't understand his timing, but the other reason is he's very patient because he wants everyone to be saved. He doesn't want anyone to perish. And he understands when he comes back and the fire comes, the purifying fire, there'll be some that will be purified away. And so therefore he is patient because he wants all people to be saved. He wants everyone to become the people that he created them to be. The second thing that jumped out to me is the word waiting, which is over and over and over again in this passage, talking about waiting for Jesus to come back. Be patient. God is patient for you. So we should be patient in waiting for his return. And it's like we are to be preparing our lives for his return, because it's going to come as a thief in the night. We never know exactly when he's going to come. So we should prepare for his arrival. We should prepare our hearts, just like a king would arrive and people would clean up everything and get the roads ready and welcome the king into their town or into their home. We are to welcome our king by preparing, getting ready for his coming, cleaning up our lives, cleaning up our world. It says that we are to live holy lives. We are to hasten the day of the Lord's coming. In other words, there's something about the way that we live when we reflect Jesus, when we live the way of Jesus, that hastens his coming. We have a part to play in this. It might seem like we're just sitting on our hands waiting for waiting. There's something that we do that helps bring about the second coming of Jesus. Now, that's mysterious. We don't exactly know what that means, but it's interesting that we are to live a particular way. And by doing so, we hasten the day, we quicken the day for the Lord's arrival. Fire. 99.9% of the time in the Bible, the word fire is not destructive, it is purifying. And for almost every scholar that I've ever read, when you talk about this particular passage, they're talking about the fire purify. It'll destroy the impurities and will, it's like a refiner's fire, purify the impurities around silver, right? And so what that means is it purifies the impurities in our lives. And so the fire is a good thing. It's a purifying thing. We should desire the fire, God's consuming fire, because it'll take away all of the things that shouldn't be in our lives and in our world. And that's justice. So God will purify all of the injustice that's in the world. So purifying is a good thing. The fire is a good thing. The fire is also a time of testing. And so when the fire comes, we are purified and prepared for God's arrival. And a lot of people will take this and go the route of purgatory, but that's not where I'm taking it by any means. And then fourth is the idea of the new heavens and the new earth. That's the promise that Isaiah gave us. And then John the Revelator continued that idea of the new heavens and new earth. When Jesus comes back, he'll make all things new. There'll be a new heaven and a new earth. Jerusalem will come down from heaven. There'll be no more pain, no more tears. That's our future. We will live with resurrected bodies on this renewed earth, this resurrected earth. That's our future. And so Peter is holding out that. He's reminding them of our future. And he says, righteousness will be our home, is at home. In other words, this righteous life, this right relationship, this life of shalom will be this home that we desire for our lives. Righteousness will be at home. Holiness will be at home. So live with an anticipation of that, an expectation of that. Don't get lazy and allow your lives to become complacent and become immoral, but live for Jesus and love your neighbor and love your enemy as you love yourself, in such a way that we are living into the new heavens and the new earth where there's no more pain and no more tears. And that's the reason why, from my perspective, that we are to live this way here in our city. We are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, to bring about no more pain and no more tears, no more death, to do everything we possibly can to live into the new heavens and the new earth. Ultimately, we can't make that happen. That's something that Jesus does, but we are to live in reflection of that. We are to be waiting for it by living for it. And that's important. And that's what Jesus did. He lived this particular way, and he calls us to follow in his footsteps. And those are some of the things that stood out to me in this passage. A lot of good stuff in here, a lot of deep stuff in here. But that's all I got for this Tuesday. Would you share your thoughts with me? And I want to learn from you. And we will be back tomorrow to jump into Isaiah 40. Great passage. And then on Thursday, it'll be Psalm 85. And then Friday, it'll be Intersections Day. So grace and peace, everyone. Hope you have an amazing day. Stay warm out there. Take care.